Let us pray. May the thoughts of our hearts, the meditation of our minds be unto you, O Lord, now and always. Amen. In the Bible, there is very few points or very few themes that are more consistent throughout the whole time of the Bible than water. It's almost mentioned in Genesis 1, and it is right up until the end of Revelations that we have different themes all the time going on. And yet we take water today for granted. It's something when you wet up, you go to the tap, you open it, and the water comes out. It's something which is our right. It's something which we don't need to actually do anything with. And I suppose the closest we get to is when they put the price of water up, we complain about that. And yet water is something of great importance. It is important throughout the Bible, and it's important in our modern day life today. And we need to understand that importance. We need to understand how we need to look after that precious resource that the Lord has given us. Israel is an arid country, and I suppose they have an understanding of what pollution or unusable water is, because that's what the Dead Sea is. Nothing grows around, although it's a vast quantity of water. And yet you have living streams running down into that water. And as you go on those banks, there's wonderful trees and plants growing. And that's where David used to take hiding place from Saul when he was being chased. And South Africa in many ways is identical. Water is a very limited resource, something we need to understand. But I don't actually have that authority or the knowledge to really talk to you. So I'm going to hand over to a professional and ask Steve to come up and share with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Father Grant mentioned that Israel's an arid country. In conversation with an Israeli paratrooper who was involved in some of those wars, both the Israelis and the Arabs were given instructions not to touch water infrastructure because water is just too important. And if you take that out, then the country will not make it. This quotation is given in greater detail on the back of the Pew leaflet, but basically interested in looking at threats to global stability, famine, terrorism, inequality, disease, poverty, climate change. All of them are rooted in the availability of fresh water. Fresh water is critical to our life. So how much fresh water do we actually have? Globally, 2.5% of the water available is fresh. Of that 2.5%, 1.3 is on the surface, in the rivers and the lakes. Sorry, is this working properly? Okay. 1.3% is on the surface water, about 30% is in groundwater. And of that 1.3%, around about 3% is in rivers, swamps or marshes. So we actually have a very small amount of water that's available to us. Just a quick look at the water cycle before we start interfering with it. Water evaporates from the oceans, it goes up in the clouds, it falls as rain. Some of it comes down in rivers. Some of it goes into the groundwater, some of it is evaporated through the plants, through the evapotranspiration, and so the cycle goes on. It's renewable to the extent that the water is evaporating from the ocean, and of course, and the rainfall. But, we can do terrible things to our water. We have intensive farming, septic tanks, sewage works that don't work, industrial waste, all sorts of sources of pollution that go into our water, and much of what we do on the land actually ends up in either rivers, groundwater, or the ocean. So we actually are fouling our own mess when South Africa's water scarce, but the water stress takes in more than just water scarcity. It looks also at water quality, the water needed for environment, as well as the accessibility to water by the population. South Africa is highly stressed. There are a few countries that are more stressed: Libya, Saudi, Iran, and a few of these stars up here. But South Africa, we are actually not very well off for water at all. The Zambezi is our nearest big river. South Africa's total surface water flow is about 50% of the flow of the Zambezi. And we have to share that with all the countries around us, with Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Swaziland, of course. And so we actually have to have a commitment to make sure that they get enough water for their needs as well. We look at the distribution of water in the country. Most of it falls down the Drakensberg and along the east coast. There's a decline in water availability as you move westwards, but there's also an increase in the rate of evaporation as you move westwards. So there's a real shortage of water on this side. This is a tricky one. A lot of the figures look a little bit different from this. This is from the Orange Seku River Basin Commission. Basically, this is the annual average, December, January, February average, June, July, August average. Temperature, rainfall. You can see that the average is going to get a bit hotter, a lot hotter, in fact, in the Karoo and the western areas of southern Africa. It's going to be, especially in the winter, it's going to get a lot hotter. The rainfall, you can see that the west coast, up until southern Angola, through Namibia up to southern Angola, is going to get drier, particularly in the winter time. But the thing that is probably going to affect us most is that the events are going to be less frequent and much more violent. And so we're going to get fewer rainfall events, but they're going to be much more serious storms, and so they're going to cause more damage that way. Invasive plants is another of our problems. Richter's felt in 2003 when we were there, there's a lot of mesquite seedlings germinating. Now mesquite were brought into the country as a fodder plant for stock, and in the Beaufort West area they're still widely used as fodder for livestock, but they're very thorny and have a very deep root, and they reach out into the water table. You can't see it well, but there's a lot of blue gums in this ponderous valley here, and we have blue gums all over the country. Blue gums use a lot of water. The estimate is that invasive plants use in the order of 6.7% of the country's total surface water supply, and it's much higher than more than double that of the Western Cape. So, this is something that we have to. This is why we're putting so much effort into clearing native invasive plants. And we have water quality as a problem. I don't have a glass of water here, but what I do have is a bottle of tap water, nicely purified, good to drink. It has roughly the right amounts of calcium and magnesium in it to replace what we lose each day from our bones. So it keeps our bones as they should be. And of course it's free of disease pathogens, safe to drink. If we're not happy it's safe to drink, it's a good idea to boil it, but land water does a good job. And so we're very well off, but there are lots of people that don't have that access to fresh water, and carries diseases, and amongst the infants particularly, it causes mortality. It causes mortality through diarrhea and dehydration. This is a terrible thing, and it's also an expense to the economy in terms of health care and in terms of lost education, opportunity, and that sort of thing. Department of Water and Sanitation, used to be Water Affairs, had what they call the Blue Drop Initiative and the Green Drop Initiative. The Blue Drop Initiative is to encourage people, it's the carrot of a carrot stick approach to get our water treatment up to speed. It's to encourage people to treat their water for their water reticulation properly so that people can drink it safely. And you might have, I think, Blue Drop is a Blue Drop town. You can drive in a Blue Drop, there's notice on the road saying this is a Blue Drop town. So, they can advertise it. Both of these two works are Blue Drop works. That one's in Hermanus, this one's in Gansbaai. And it means they've scored 95% out of what this 100 of what they're supposed to be doing. But of course, when people don't get what they expect, they get angry. You can see how that's Standerton, tap water, what they expect people to bath and drink and wash their clothes in and cook with. It didn't go down very well. Brits, at about the same time, a couple of people were shot by the police because the riot got so violent. People get angry when they don't get what they want, and so it's incumbent on the people running those to actually deliver a good product. And then the Green Drop Initiative, the Green Drop says wastewater is the first barrier to a multi-barrier system of safe drinking water, which is important, and it's important that these are run properly, but it takes a lot of skill and a lot of dedication to run good wastewater treatment works. And I add here that it's also the basis of a healthy environment. The environment can handle quite a lot, but it comes at a cost. For instance, this is an activated sludge works, a small one. Activated sludge is a good technology, it works in Trinity. Run properly, it gives you a good clean product, but it also takes quite a lot of skill to run it properly. And of course, if it's not run properly, that's what you get in the rivers, which leaves a huge burden on the ecosystems to clean up afterwards. Not guesswork to have, I'm sure you all know that it's highly polluted, it's these dreadful algal scums that smell. Worse than that, they produce a toxin, which is a liver toxin, and costs it just about doubles the cost of water treatment to get rid of that. It can be done. And of course, it's caused by phosphates and nitrates. There's such a heavy load of phosphates and nitrates coming off the Gauteng area that it's actually difficult to cope with all that. Acid mine drainage is another serious problem. I'm sure you've all picked up rocks and seen these little flecks of ooze go over the rocks. Thinking, stuck a bridge at last. But no, it's iron sulfide. And what that oxidizes to become sulfuric acid. You can't see the colours much. That water is bright red. This is a horrible reddy brown colour because of the iron, the oxidized iron in the water. And the Gauteng gold mines, the pH is about 2.5, and coal mines is about 1 or 1.5. Nothing can do with that water. It takes a long time for the environment to stabilize it. And I'm afraid it's going to be with us for a while. There are old Roman workings in Britain that are still producing acid mine drainage. You treat it, it costs a lot of money. One of the coal mines in Wilfred treats it and sells it back into the Wilfred reticulation system, and it costs them about 25 rand a kilometre to treat. So it's not an easy option. Pollutions. One of the worst ones is tetraethyl lead, which was used as an octane booster. There's the lead atom in this molecule. Another one, Japan had a factory which had cadmium in the waste. Went into the river, went into the estuary, the mussels, the oysters took it up. The people ordnance and so on. But there's a suite of others, these endocrine disrupting compounds, for instance, that the press have dubbed the gender benders, because you can, in extreme cases like fish living in sewage ponds, you'll get sex reversal. They are only detectable when they appear in very, very low concentrations, about 1,000th of the concentration of the organic chlorines, the DDTs. They have an effect, and they can cause cancerous tumours, birth defects, and various other development disorders. And then, of course, there are things like the polychlorinated PCBs, which are an impurity in transformer oils. We have transformers on many corners through the suburbs of all our towns, and whenever they change it, there's always a spillage, and so the PCBs get into the water supply, and they cause cancers and stuff too, if what they can do. They don't always do it, but they can do. There's actually quite a lot that we can do. Much of the bigger initiatives, of course, depend on government policies being in place first. But for ourselves, for instance, we can just look after, conserve the water that we've got. We can recycle wherever possible. Grey water from the shower, from the bath, from the kitchen, back up to the garden. And then, importantly too, we can reduce the amount of waste that we generate. For instance, a car takes an awful lot of water to make. If you consider not just on the factory floor, but the people also making it in the factory, and disposing of hazardous objects to keep our waste out of the water. I think that is an important one too. Batteries are very bad. They contain all sorts of horrible things. So we just need to know that a big bag has a place where you can put your batteries. So in summary then, I'd just like to say that we are water stressed, but many of us take water for granted because the quality of the infrastructure is such that we actually aren't aware of it. It's only the people who live on the sort of away from the service provision who actually see just how difficult it is to get water. A lot of people find it difficult to get water at least for 1 month a year. There's 2.5 or 3 billion around the world. And so we actually need to look after what we've got here.
Thanks, Steve, for that. I've been on that side where water has been of scarce commodity. The last 8 years, only one of the last 8 years in December, have I actually had running water in my home. And it was a great difference. One of the worst parts about it is I lived right next to one of the biggest dams that Gauteng actually has, which is the Hartbeespoort Dam. They can't actually purify that water anymore because it costs too much. So rather we bring the water from the Vaal Dam in to supply the people of the area. But we don't bring in enough. We can't provide enough. And so instead, we just don't have. And so funnily enough, in actual fact, it would be very easy to solve that problem. It would be a high labor intensive, and yes, there would be money involved, but we would be building floating wetlands and things like that would actually take place. Don't allow this problem to creep up on us, and it's too late for us to do something about it. Amen. We stand and turn to page 108 of the Anglican Prayer Book, and we say,